data actually shows that children benefit more from collaboration. And so, as parents, we too can 10x our impact by building a team or a village of people that we could collaborate with so that our individual impact will be increased, but that the impact of the entire, we call our parent collective, whatever you want to call it, your crew. So there could be more children benefiting. And again, it will lighten your load overall because you're not just working by yourself, but you're working together.
Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
So this episode gives you those 5 strategies for getting the most bang out of your buck. So doing what you can to get a actual team that's going to work with you, and it's give and take, and it's not someone trying to get over on you. It's Falling for Learning, episode 63, which means this is season 2, episode 11. We are so glad to have you here today. We are diving into having parents work collaboratively today. So, of course, we want to make sure our children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success so they could continue to carry on the legacy that you're building with them right now. How do we do that? Now, we want to talk about collaboration because we know that we're really good at teaching children how to compete with each other, and the world also does that too. It's in the society, it's everywhere. So, how do you build that collaborative team? Well, great question. Now, I want to be very clear with this. I'm not talking about where you're dumping your child off at somebody's house and they are doing the babysitting. Now, definitely that could be a thing, but I am really talking about give and take because we know that there are people out there who can take. So you do need to vet who that is that's going to be helping you. So we're thinking in terms of combined birthday parties, prom parties, thinking about even how you can get help with homework. So, first of all, you need to create a network of like minded parents. So, when your child is in different activities, definitely mix, mingle, talk, and also observe other parents to see actually what they're doing, how they're interacting. Now, we know there are a lot of parents out there that are, let's just say it, toxic. They're talking a lot of mess about other people. They are elevating their children above others in unhealthy ways. They're sending messages to their children about not treating other people fairly or talking about what worth someone else may have based on what they're wearing, what car they're driving. So I would say let's steer clear of those types of families and really be selective about who you choose. Now, everything that I'm suggesting is not about, they're with this child during this time and then the kids are over here during this time. It's really about things that can be done together. Of course, as you all navigate your own personal experiences together, that is left to your judgment. You are the experts on your child when it comes to that kind of thing. But I'm talking about things that you could do all together. Not one person is doing all the work or one person is taking a break. Now, again, that's the focus. We know that parenting can feel very isolated, right? Like where you're kind of by yourself getting things done, especially if you're in the habit of breaking those generational cycles, mishabits, or people even call them curses. You want to be thinking about what you could be doing that is different. And if you see some of that familiar negativity in someone else, you may want to steer clear or see if they're actually trying to work and maybe they just made one mistake. I don't know. You have to be the judge of that. So, like minded individuals are people who are trying to send positive messages about education to your child. They are trying to think about what you could do to be a productive citizen and to give back to the community and to build up the community and build up others. So, you have to think about what your goals are and see if your people are in that same vein. Now, when my daughter was growing up, it was not uncommon for people around her, adults, and me, to put down reading, talk about how boring it is at the library. Um, That's not what we're talking about, right? Telling kids, when your car registration is expires, that people are just out to get you. The police are out to get you when they're pulling you over. Instead of explaining that this is a once a year kind of activity that you know about, that you should be preparing for, pay your car registration. You don't have to agree with it, but if you want to keep your car out of impound and you want to prevent these tickets, uh, pay for it, or, don't have a car. Um, so promoting that victim mentality. So again, really be clear about who you're not going to have in your kind of circle of helping collaborate with your child. Um, and what else you want to think about, like-minded, but different types of skills, right? Maybe you're very strong in writing. So that's an area of expertise for myself, but I'm not an expert in teaching math or an expert in science. So maybe you'll see parents who are more into science and more into math, and you all can complement each other's skills in that way. Now, of course, whatever I say can work for homeschool parents, public school parents, whatever. As I've told you and explained many, many times before, while I've never done homeschooling, um, I did homeschooling. The weekends, the holidays, the nighttime, like we were all up in it for the education. The summertime, like I had a program going on for my nieces, my nephews, my daughter. We were doing it. So I know about that. Of course, it's not the same as year round. There are some differences, but as far as that basic day to day, how to get learning done, how to make learning fun, how to organize some time, make sure that you put in some breaks, make sure that you have something of substance to help the kids move forward. I'm about that. So, again, we're looking for people who have similar goals and they are taking their job as parenting seriously, not about, you know, pushing over this responsibility to other people, not about spreading, generational falsehoods about the fun of reading or the benefits of reading or the benefits of school. So, again, think in terms of what someone else has that will complement what you have. You might be shy or quiet. Your children may benefit from someone who is more outgoing for social situations or something like that. And again, helping teaching them those lessons or help modeling that for them is really important. Again, as well as when it's time to be quiet, when it's time to, just observe and sit back, you could be teaching those lessons as well. So we want to think about holistically about what we have to offer, and it's not always just about education or paper and pencil learning and academics. So think about holistically, what can you bring to the table? It could be career oriented or it could be life skills in general, cooking. All of those things, are skills, are knowledge that our children need to be successful in the world, that can make their life easier and more enjoyable. So think in terms of what you have to bring to the table, and then look at people who can complement what you have, like what you don't have, right? So that you all could work together. So there are parents and groups of parents out there who join a monthly, weekly parenting circle. They meet up. They may have a Facebook group or some kind of group online. They may Zoom together or meet actually in a location so they can check in on one another, talk about what are some upcoming events or things or responsibilities their kids have to do, and talk about how you could collaborate on it. That's what I was talking about earlier with prom party. Prom is coming up. What do you do? So, the second strategy is to make sure you're setting shared goals. Now, again, this is not just for homeschool parents, but of course it can be. One thing we know for sure is that kids lose sometimes up to 2 grade levels worth of knowledge and skill development over those big break times. That summertime, we have a 3-week winter break out here. So they're losing learning if they're not still flexing those skills, right? If you don't use it, you often lose it. And one way to do this is making sure that you work together with your parent collective, your group of of your village that you've helped design for the benefit of a group of children, right? And you all could set together maybe 4 different tasks and activities that will help make a difference. For example, they could go to science center together. If the goal is, for example, getting more information about science and technology, they could, organize a trip to the California Science Center or whatever science center is nearby you. And of course, someone could bring the snacks for that trip. Someone else could set the transportation. For example, you could ride the train. Of course, you don't have to ride the train. You could just walk there or all ride in the same car. I don't know. You all have lots of decisions to make about this. And because you may have a span of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 3 weeks, then you could have like 4 activities over that time span, so that kids could know about it. So they might go to another science museum. They may organize an activity where they do some gaming together or they learn how to do some coding. The good thing about this is it helps to maintain consistency because each person is bearing part of the responsibility, or you all are together working on it. So it's easier if someone else can do one part, then someone could do the next week, and so on and so forth.
75% of children don't know how to write well. Add that to the fact that so many people out there are trying to silence the voices of those who have been oppressed and trying to prevent them from telling their story. Who's going to tell your story? If your child doesn't know how to write well, I have 2 books to address this issue: The Rewrite Method and The Rewrite Method Workbook, written to make sure that parents know what to do, that educators know what to do to get their children to write better, and just not write better, but love to write. Make sure that your next generation could tell their story and they won't be silenced. Go to fallingforlearning.com today to purchase your set.
So your kids are collectively growing. Because remember, we just talked about thinking about preparing your kids for 5 years down the line. So are you raising doctors, lawyers, gaming, authors or creators? Like, what is the goal? And then how could you help work with your child to develop those goals and work with the community of parents that you've built, or community of caretakers, I'm saying, right? Because they're not always parents. They might be a grandma, a grandpa, aunt, uncle, or it could just be parents. Everyone's, team is going to look different. But this is important to think about how you can get help in helping your child, assisting your child in meeting their goals. Because often your goals may be different than your child. So if you know about education, but your child wants to be a lawyer, then you may need someone to give you help on what those skills and that knowledge set that might be good in starting early in their development. Let's give you a real life example of how this might work. There is a group of parents that have established the goal of having their children read 10 books for a semester. And so, again, how do you organize that? Having read aloud times during, each week, maybe hosted by different parents. Maybe even having a Zoom call or a Google Meet call where you're reading together. Maybe you're setting a time at the library together. You're having things, treats, and all of those things to help incentivize the kids. So again, one person's collecting this, one person is thinking about this, one person is setting up the meeting, one person is hosting, and collectively our kids can become better readers because we have nurtured this together as a group of people. If you think of it the opposite way, where one parent is organizing all of these things, it may be a good chance that it doesn't happen, that maybe they do it once, but they can't sustain it because it is overwhelming and it is tiring. And so, again, you're going to get more done for longer, right? Sustainability when you have a group of people working together for a common goal of helping our children to read better, helping our children to learn about technology, or to later on become a lawyer or a doctor or whatever that lofty goal is. That again, you need a lot of support getting them there because you don't have anyone in the family like that already. And how can you organize them and help position them so that they have an advantage. Another very important tip that we need to think about, strategy number 3, would be effective communication between parents. Now, kids are kids and people are people. So things happen. And what we know is important is establishing the fact that we're going to assume positive intentions. So we're not going to jump to negative conclusions automatically. We are going to talk to each other. We're going to set up systems for communicating with each other respectfully and even set ahead of time what may happen if we have a disagreement so that things don't get out of hand. So, again, you have chosen wisely, right? To see that they're not usually a catty or negative person that likes to keep up mess. And so, establishing, setting this circle, this group with someone that already has that shared goal of not starting mess and being transparent and being clear and being collaborative is really important. But then if something arises, a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, a lack, a difference of opinion, you can talk about it in a healthy way. When your kids disagree with each other, um, you know, it's an issue, right? You don't want it to be an issue. Now, I have had parent friends over the years that, our kids didn't even get along, but they were in activities that were the same. And so we got along fine and we never got into whatever the drama was that the kids were in between each other, which wasn't necessarily a lot of drama. They just weren't friends. And so that's important. So, one of the ways to make sure that you establish clear communication is talk about how you're feeling. So, ahead of time, if we're talking about going to museums or going to the fair, you may and or other people may have some concerns about going to the fair or going to the museum because they've had negative experiences in the past or whatever it is. And so saying that makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm really not sure about this. And that's where people could set in together and say, you know what? I like to do this. These are some things I do to avoid some of those problems that you've talked about. So, again, establishing expectations and being transparent about misgivings or things that you're not clear about. And again, you could say, my money's funny right now, so I'm not able to pay for zoo tickets, and really being clear about that. And then also maybe you don't want to say your money is funny, but you could say, here's a low cost alternative to going to the zoo, and this is what we could do instead. And so that it's very clear, that you want to keep it within a budget. And you don't even have to talk about you having a problem with money, but just saying that's not part of our budget and we would like to do this. And then, of course, you could set yourself aside for other times. Like, well, we're going to do this instead today. And we're just clear, no hard feelings. That's out of our budget. Sometimes things are too far away. That's out of our time. It's going to take too much time. It's going to take 7 hours if we travel out there. We really basically have a 4 hour window of time. So being very clear about your time, your limits, setting boundaries is really important. If you don't want 10 o'clock phone calls, tell them, I don't want 10 o'clock phone calls. And please reciprocate that for them. Don't you make 10 o'clock phone calls, but you don't want people giving them to you. So set those boundaries. Be very clear about what you want to do and how you want to handle things. And of course, always be respectful to each other and let them know, preface it, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, or maybe some people were upset about if I said this in the past, but I do need to express this. So being very clear and communicative and looking ahead into the future to see why something may be a problem and communicating that ahead of time can help keep that together, right? So very clear, but this really works when when the people at the beginning, are not people who like to keep up mess and cause mess and trouble and conflict. So choose wisely. So, another thing on the other part of the time between the collaboration is thinking about how you could help support one another, right? With the communication. So, communicating is also something to be helped. So, we might see a problem arising ahead of time and addressing that. But sometimes, as parents, again, part of having this parent circle is making sure that you have people that you could talk to about what you're going through. And then, setting up times that we're regularly able to vent, talk, and strategize, right? And so that's really important as well. So, how can we lean on one another through either just talking or even giving some advice about stuff? And, again, protect yourself. If you want to just vent and don't want advice, you know what to do, because we've all been there where we know what we need to do, but it doesn't mean that it's not hard to do it or you don't feel like doing it. So be clear about, I just want to vent. I know exactly what I need to do. Can I just tell you how I'm feeling right now? And I don't really want advice because I know what I need to do. And that will also help protect you too. And then there's times when you want advice. Look, I need advice about this. I don't know what to do, how to handle this. And again, those kinds of things with the communication, those little things will make a big difference as you move forward in your parent collaborative relationship. So, creating a learning environment at home, and again, I want to keep saying this is not just for homeschool parents. Parents should view themselves as their child's first teachers and continuous teachers. So, setting a learning environment at home, because kids should be doing homework at home, they should be reading at home, they should be learning at home. And so, because of our different family and home makeups, we may get help from our friends to help us organize our homes or set up a way that we could get some learning done. Um, if that's either creating books, a book area, it could be creating a way to um, really to organize materials, where to store them in a place really that's really neat and really pleasing to the eye for you, right? Uh, so even you may be a part of, like, this is the perfect place to do the experiments and doing the experiments together, instead of me doing a volcano experiment with my kid at home and then them doing a volcano experiment with their kid at home and then them doing then we all could have it at one person's house once a month or something like that. You could kind of organize how you're going to do that. Again, doing experiments with your kids is fun, it's easy, and it helps draw your kid into the learning process. So, if you don't have the ideal space, maybe someone does, and you guys could work together. You'll buy all the materials, but they will host it at their house. You'll make sure you help them clean up, right? Otherwise, individually, 4 families are going to do this individually and have to clean up and buy the materials and all of that, when it could just be done once and working together, carrying that load. One trip to the store instead of 4 different trips to the store, and so on and so forth. So just think about how you could work with each other to create learning environments. And that could mean a range of things. So maybe having a coding class that you take at one person's house because maybe they have the best Wi Fi, or maybe they have the materials there, they have extra computers. I don't know. Think about it and talk about it together, and think about what you all bring, from your career or your networks, right? Oh, I have a brother-in-law who blah blah blah, who works at NASA, who does that. And then you could bring those resources together to benefit all of your children, right? Again, 10xing your impact across your network. Okay, so finally, our strategy 5 is encouraging cooperative projects between families. Now, this could come in a lot of different forms. One of them is the family trip. So you could do a family trip with another family, right? So that you all work together. And I'm thinking of camping, because maybe camping's not your thing, but your friend, it's their thing. And you don't have to deny that experience with your child. You could go with them and you all can make it work. Again, be very clear about what fears you might have, hesitations that you have, and again, work out those kinks before it happens to the best of your ability, right? You don't know sometimes what you don't know, and tell them that this makes me uncomfortable and I don't know what else to expect. And then ask lots of questions and see, some drawbacks that you may have and see how to work around it. But you want to give your children a range of opportunities and experiences, because that who knows what experience it is going to be that helps them find their passion, right? And these range of opportunities and experiences also gives them confidence and courage as they're moving around the world. There's a lot of children that are afraid, young adults that are afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to try out something new. They think they're not going to do good at it. And guess what? The truth is that they're not going to do good at it. But that's not the point. The point is that you can get better at something and you could work on it over time. But it does take courage to start something because it's like, I'm going to look funny if I do this because I don't know how to do it. People are going to laugh if I don't do this right. And that is correct. People may laugh and you may look funny, but the truth is that you are doing this for yourself. You're investing in yourself. You are believing in yourself. And it's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay if you look funny doing it because you're going to learn from it. And you'll learn that this is something I love to do, or you'll learn this is something I'm okay with it. I'll keep it as a hobby. Or you might find, guess what? This is my passion. This is something I love to do, and I want to continue to learn in doing it for the rest of my life. And when kids deny themselves those opportunities, they're missing out on a part of their life. They don't even know what they don't know. And that is a direct byproduct of them not having a variety of experiences and the confidence to try even when they're uncomfortable, to get out of their comfort level and to move forward in the world. So these group projects could even be done within the community. So making a mural in a part of the community, or it doesn't even have to be a part of the community. Some of us have spaces in our own home. We have a wall in an alley that we might be able to paint together, right? An art project in the community. You could be also thinking about cleaning up parts of the community together. You know, there's beach cleanup, there's different things. So there is a way to start establishing early on ways that you can give back to your community. Another community kind of project is planning a party. You know, you might be honoring a community member, you might be honoring a grandparent or someone, right? Setting up a birthday party. Just planning that event together, setting up. Can you come on my house on Saturday to set it up? Putting a yard sale together. Like there's a variety of opportunities that your kids will very much benefit from. Working together to see how to sell things, to organize events can become a career, could even become a lifelong passion. And again, it's honoring and, really thinking about how you can build community within each other. So, with the shared planning, the budget, all of this information, all of these skills, all of these activities together, you're building lifelong friendships. You are strengthening your community overall. And, as a parent, you could be more energized because you're feeding off of the energy. You have a lightened load because you are working together. So it's just win, win, win. It's all positive going forward. And you'll learn from the experience and learning how to get along with one another and to, really maintain relationships as well. It's really important. It's going to be so good for their life going forward and for their growth process overall. If you found today's episode helpful, right, please like, subscribe, recommend it to other people who need to, support in making sure their children are on track for learning and stay on track for success. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Do something today that your kids, your future adult kids, will thank you for. All right. Have a great week.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.